Hi, Diane here, and I am going to jump right into talking about the Weekly DiVa Performance Review. And if you don't know what I'm talking about, last week's video was about that. I'm going to put a link up there somewhere. I always point to the wrong side of the screen, so I'm covering my bases right now. There will be a link up there to that video, which talks about what this project is and gives you a link so you can get your own and follow along in future videos. But this is the first time part one, we're walking through, I guess technically it's part two, but I'm calling it part one, walking through the Weekly DiVa Performance Review. Page one, the first category, which is money. Now, the first thing that this asks you to do is to set your personal budget, your business budget, and the amount saved. I'm not going to tell you my personal budget. I don't expect you to tell me your personal budget. The key is I think we need to be aware of it, because when we're aware of it, then we make different decisions than if we just fly by the seat of our pants. And I can say this because I have experience with flying by the seat of my pants in terms of money. So toward the end of last year, I recapped how much I had spent on my business. I do spend money on promoting my writing. And I was kind of surprised at how big the number was. It was the highest it's been. And the thing that struck me was all through the year, I didn't really feel like I spent that much money. So I set myself a goal this year. I set an actual budget, and it's lower than last year's. And that might seem counterintuitive, but here's the thing. Because I have a number that I'm working with, it's going to force me to really think and be intentional about my spending decisions. Because otherwise, this is what happens. You're on Facebook, you're in a group of writers, somebody says something they did that worked, and you think, oh, that worked for them, it'll work for me. And you run out to some website and you throw some money at it, and you jot it down in a file, and you kind of forget about it until you go do that recap, and then you say, yeah, I could have bought a couple pair of shoes for that money. So yeah, that doesn't always work. And that was kind of what I ended up doing. So I want to be more intentional about my spending this year. So I set a budget. Like I said, I've divided it out into quarters, so I know every 3 months about what I have. And now I'm looking at it like, what are the big expenses that I'm going to have in that 3-month window? So I just pull that money aside. I know that's where it's going, and then see what's left. And that becomes the money that I can play with. Again, I'm kind of flipping it. It's that Stephen Covey, deal with make room for the big things in your life first and let the little things fall in where they can. It's that mentality, except with money. So like I said, I've set a budget for this year, and I'm going to try to stick to it. Now, can I? I don't know. That's what this whole review thing is about. But again, I challenge you to see what you think your annual budget should be. Write the number down, and then you'll be aware of it. And I really do think once you write it down, you will start being a little bit more aware of where you're spending and being more intentional. So there's personal, there's business. You may not have both. That's okay. Just fill out the one you have. The other section is amount saved. And I really encourage all of us to just save some money. It doesn't, even if you think you can't save money, save something. Save $1 a month. In a year, you'll have $12. You can do something with $12. Save the money that comes out of the lint catcher in the dryer. You'd be surprised. I sometimes find $5 bills in there. You set aside $25 a month. You can buy some ebooks at the end of the year. I'm just saying, find a way. Get a coffee can. Stick your loose change in it. At the end of the year, take it to a Coinstar machine and cash it in. But put aside some money that is not your budget. It's not your bills. It's just something that you're not going to think about, you're not going to touch, and you're going to see how much you end up with in a year. I started doing this past year in the summer. I just programmed my bank to take a little bit of money and toss it into my savings account without me even thinking about it. And I am so happy I did it because I don't miss the money. I don't miss it not being in my checking account because I can still pay my bills. It's not a huge amount, but it's just something. And when I go and look at my bank account and I see that money, that number just building a little bit, it's nice. It's nice to know that I have a little kitty in case something happens, or if I want to go shopping or treat myself. There's something there that's not going to pull away from the other budgets. So find a way to save yourself a little bit of money. Okay, moving right along. The next part of the Weekly DiVa Performance Review on money is a series of questions. The first question, did you set a budget? Yes or no? Well, we just talked that through. So hopefully you're going to answer that one yes. Did you put aside any money for savings? We just talked about that too. So hopefully your answer there is yes. Did you use your money to upgrade your quality of life? Okay, so this is really what this whole Weekly Diva thing is about. It's not about a complete major overhaul. It's about looking at your life and finding little ways to turn up the volume and be a little bit happier, because when you're happier, the people in your life are going to be happier. And that's going to help your whole quality of life improve. So the question is, did you spend any money on anything that's going to upgrade your quality of life? And then the part 2 of that is, if you did it improve your quality of life? That's kind of a key thing that we don't always think about. So like, think about that. Did you fly first class last year? And was it the best experience? And you thought, oh my gosh, that was totally worth the extra money. I'm always going to fly first class if I can afford it. Or did you fly first class and you thought, I can't believe I spent that extra money. I should so be in coach. This is not worth it. You have to ask yourself the follow-up question, because you don't want to just throw money away because you think it's what you should be doing. You want to be spending the money where you want to spend the money, where you're going to be happy about spending it. Here's another example. Did you get a manicure? Did you pay $50 for a manicure? Did you love it? Or was it a bad experience? Because you could have spent $10 on the most beautiful bottle of nail polish. Maybe that would have made you happy. Again, think about those things. If you spent to upgrade your life, think about if it was the right place to spend, because we all want to keep learning and getting better. I probably went on about that a little too long. So the last thing is it's a question with 5 possible answers. Now, if you look at your review, you see that there are 5 possible scores. So you're going to pick one. You only pick the one that applies to you, and it tells you right there what you score based on what you say. The question is about debt. First answer, I'm not in debt. Outstanding! You get the top score. Number 2, option, I was in debt, but I'm not in debt anymore. That exceeds expectations because you changed that situation for yourself. Thumbs up. Third answer, I was in debt, but I made progress in getting myself out of debt. That to me is an achieves expectations. You're going the right way. You're not there yet, but you're working on it. And that's probably where the majority of people are. So that kind of helps you figure out where you are in the grid. I have no proof to back that up. That's my own take on things. Okay. The 4th option out of 5 is I'm in debt and not trying to get out. Well, that's no good. Don't you want your life to be a little better? You know what I'm thinking here. Thought bubble right there. Anyway, you're probably wondering, so that becomes a below expectation. You're probably wondering, well, how you said there were 5, so that sounded pretty bad. No, there's one that's worse than that. There is, I wasn't in debt, but now I am. And that, my friends, needs improvement, because you really don't want to be going that direction. So figure out what happened, how that happened, and start looking at where you're spending your money and how you can stop the bleeding. Okay, that's not a good thing. I'll be honest, about 15, I don't know, it was 15, 17 years ago, something like that, when I was married, we had debt. We had some debt, a couple $1,000s debt. And in the course of getting divorced, we divided up the liquid money, and he didn't want to pay off the debt, and I did. I didn't want that hanging around with me when I went off into my new life. So I took my half of what we got, and I paid off our joint debt, because I just wasn't what I wanted, but it was what I wanted. So I did. I wanted a clean start. It was probably the best decision I could have made, because yes, I ended up leaving with less, but because I wasn't saddled with any of that, I was able to save more, and I was able to make different decisions because I didn't have to think about this bunch of money that was just being paid out every month to chip away at things. That was gone. So it was a very, very freeing thing that I did. I wish I hadn't been there to begin with, but I was. We all make mistakes. So I'm just sharing that with you in case the same thing happened to you. Hey, sister. So anyway, try to get yourself out of debt. It's an important thing to try to do. So that is the full monetary recap of the Weekly DiVa Performance Review. Like I said, look for the video from last week that kicks this off, find the link, get your own, and then tune in next week where we'll go over one of the next categories and get into some of the nitty-gritty about how we're living our lives. Okay, thanks a lot for watching. This is just out rough. I don't know what I'm going to say. So that's how I calculate everything comes back to the cost of a pair of shoes. So pay off the credit card, pay off the student loan, pay off the loan shark, wherever you got the money, pay off whoever. Connection. If you spend the money and you enjoy it, you have a nice little thing going there. I have no idea what that gesture was, so that's going to go in the outtakes.